Ko-ken USA just sent me a nice little haul here of Ko-ken tools. Let's just go through these one at a time and take a look and see what we got. Hey, what's up YouTube? Dan the Fix-It Man. Got another quick video here for you. Ko-ken USA, which is one of the companies that I met at the SEMA show in Vegas this year, sent me these tools in exchange for a quick little unboxing and review video. And of course, you'll see these in lots of other videos, I'm sure, as well. Now, I have already been buying Ko-ken tools, and there's a reason that they're very interesting to me. Primarily the quality. I love the feel of the ratchets. I've been picking up quite a few of these 3/8 drive ratchets. I do like the quick release, and this one happens to be the 3726ZB, B for the button or the quick release, and this is the 3/8 drive flex head. So far, I've been very happy with this, been using it quite a bit. I use it with this little quick spinner here. I really love this. This is pretty much my go-to ratchet now. This is the one that I seem to be grabbing the most. Of course, depends on what I'm doing, but I've been using this a lot lately. Before I get too carried away, this is not a review on this ratchet. That's just kind of just showing you how I got introduced to this brand, and I've been really impressed with the quality overall. So very happy and excited to take a look at what I got here. So this first one, we'll start here on the left. This is the universal socket set, but these are all the nut grip sockets. Part number is RS3441M/11. It's an 11-piece set. Now it's 8 through 19, but it does skip the 9mm. Let's open this up real quick. Well, there it is. These are the nut grip sockets in a universal. Almost 90 degrees of flex here. And these are smooth, but not loose. Look, you can't even shake that. These are not gonna flop. There's no slop there at all. Now, I had already done a review on some of these nut grip sockets, and I love them. I thought that this would be something I would use every once in a while, but I've been so happy with how they hold on to nuts and bolts. I've been using these a lot. For example, here's a bolt. Pop it in that 14. You can see how it holds on. I've already done a review on these, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that, but they work excellent. I also really like this universal. This is the hexahedron type of shape. It disperses the force stronger than the pin style, and it's really smooth. Again, not a review on this. I did a review on that already. It's my understanding that the nut grips are also going to be available with this style of universal, the hexahedron style. And so that's something I'll be looking for in the future, but for right now, I'm really happy with this. You know, whatever you're doing, whatever you're taking apart, the access is amazing on these. The other reason I like it is because if you take this, let's just do the 10mm here, for example. Look at that. You've got a much shorter overall when combining the universal with that 10mm nut grip. You might just buy the 8, 10, and the 12, depending on what kind of vehicles or what kind of jobs that you do. I'm really happy to have all of these sizes all the way up to 19. I'm sure that that's going to cover me for just about anything that I am going to be doing. You know, I was doing a brake booster not too long ago up underneath the dash, and it was really hard to get at those bolts, and having something like this would have really saved a little bit of time. So really happy to have this, and definitely looking forward to using this. Don't really love this socket rail, by the way. They probably could do a little bit nicer rail, but I'm not sure if I'll keep them on this rail or maybe set them up somewhere in the toolbox. But for right now, very, very happy with that. Moving on down here, this is the 3772Z. This is a double universal. So you've got a swivel at either end. Again, this is the same style of hexahedron design. The joints use these ball mechanisms to provide a fluid motion or rotation. You can see that's just a lot more smooth than a regular universal, for example, like these. This is smoother. These are connected by mutually engaged hexahedrons. This disperses the load across the whole outer circumference of the tool, and it allows 60 degrees of rotation. So that is quite a bit more than the single universal that I have here. You know, the single universal, of course, that's going to be the same angle or the same setup, but this one just makes it that much better, adds a double. I mean, I could even connect these if I needed, and then there's a triple and a nice smooth motion there. Not sure I'll ever need something like that, but pretty neat that I can do that. I mean, I could even add that to these wobble extensions that I have from Ko-ken. I did another review video on these, really like these. And there you go. There's a full 90-degree turn and a nice fluid arc. I mean, that actually would work just fine. Pretty neat that you can set that up, you know, depending on what you're doing, but really, really was intrigued by this double universal and really like that. By the way, the length on this one is 65mm, which is about 2.6 inches, if you were wondering. I'm sure I'll get a lot of use out of this one. Now moving on up to the 1/2 inch size here. This is part number 14772-B. Now this is the 1/2 inch drive universal double joint, but this is not the hexahedron design. This does have a pin, you can see on either end. It's still very smooth. Yeah, that is nice. I have a few of these that are not double universals, but I have a few of these that are the ball type of universal, and I really like that. I use these a lot with my 2767 Milwaukee. Now the length on this one is 90 millimeters, or just over 3.5 inches. This side does not seem to be spring loaded. This side appears to be, because it just kind of pops right back. Here you have about that 60-degree turn. It might be slightly different on this one than this, so don't quote me on that 60 degrees. It might be a little bit less, might be a little bit more. You know, I do a lot of brake jobs, and a lot of times those caliper bracket bolts are stuck on there pretty good. And so if I'm using primarily 3/8 drive stuff, and I have my 2960 Milwaukee mid-torque, which is pretty strong and breaks a lot of stuff loose, there's been many situations where I have to grab the bigger one, which is the 2767, if I'm in a hurry, otherwise I could just, break it loose with a large box end or a breaker bar. But if I use that 2767, sometimes it's just too bulky to fit there. And depending on the vehicle, sometimes you can get in there and break that loose, but sometimes it wouldn't work, even with an impact swivel. I'm wondering with two, although this will reduce some of the breakaway power, I'm thinking this will still come in handy. Although, as we all know with impacts, when you start adding longer setups with different joints and whatnot, that's going to take away some of your impact or some of your power. I was mostly just intrigued because, I saw this one and I thought, well, that would sure be nice to have that in 1/2 inch as well. And because I'm usually using the impact, I would like to have it as the impact rated universal or extension here. So moving on. Now, as I mentioned, I really love these 3/8 drive ratchets, and I've picked up quite a few of them. And a lot of what I do is primarily 3/8 drive. I use a little bit of 1/4 inch drive, and I use a little bit of 1/2 inch drive too, of course, but 3/8 is my typical go-to. Now, I don't really love any of the 1/2 inch ratchets that I have, and I thought, why wouldn't I just get one of these nice Ko-ken 1/2 inch ratchets? So we picked up this one here. It's the 4725ZB. B again for the button or the quick release, and this is the 72 tooth. Let's open this one up and take a look. And there you go. Now I opted for non-flex head this time, but I did get that quick release, and I really already like the feel of this. I like this handle, by the way, just like the 3/8 drive. And I've had a few of you ask me as far as how does that hold up or clean up. I mean, you can see that I've already used this one. I do like the feel. It's not soft rubber like some of the other rubber or soft handles that I have, and it's not super hard plastic. It's for the most part hard, but it's kind of hard to describe because it's hard in the sense that it doesn't really give too much, but it still feels comfortable in your hand, if that makes sense. You're not depressing that or squishing that in. It just feels good in the hand. So that's why I like this one. And look at that. Very little back drag. You can spin that super easy, which I really like. Remember on the directional switch here, if you saw my other Ko-ken ratchet video, it's different than most of the US ratchets where the direction that it's going is almost like the point here. In this case, that's actually to loosen, or that's counterclockwise. Switch it this direction, and that's clockwise, which just takes a little bit of getting used to if you're used to the other way, which I was. But I've been using the Ko-ken brand a lot more on the other ratchets, and I'm getting used to that direction, so I'm good with it. Already like the feel of this one. Again, just the bigger iron for bigger bolts and bigger nuts depending on what you're working on, so it's just really nice to have. And batteries do die sometimes, so it's good to have this as a backup, especially if you have something with a lot of thread locker on it and you need to spin it all the way off and you can't quite do it with your hand. It's nice to be able to have a nice smooth ratchet to do that. And of course, to use this ratchet, thought it would be great to get some Ko-ken 1/2 inch drive sockets, which is what they sent me here. Part number here is RS4400M/10. It's a 10-piece set. This is 10 to 22. Now this set does skip the 16, 18, and the 20, which of course are sizes that I don't use too often, so I'm okay with that. I know occasionally we do, depends on what you're working on, but for the most part, this covers me for a lot of what I'll be using. Now, just like the 3/8 set here, these are all 6-point, which for me, I'm really mostly using 6-point unless you have a unique fastener that requires it. The reason for having 12-point back in the day, which we all had 6 and 12, is primarily because most ratchets were only like 36 tooth. Now that we have 72 tooth on these and very little back drag, a 6-point socket works great. That's perfect. Again, I am a quick release guy. I know a lot of you hate quick release, but for me, when my hands get real dirty and greasy, I just like to be able to pop that off. And I do a lot of quick change stuff, so I really like to have the ability just to pop that off, drop it, and change the socket out. I'll probably change the rail on this one too, or upgrade that to something different. It is just this cheap metal rail, but really just happy with the sockets overall. Quality looks good. Now this is not their surface drive. They also make a surface drive, which is a kind of a slightly different design. These are just their traditional flat drive. Most of the stuff I work on is automotive, and it's all pretty clean nuts and bolts for the most part. I'm in California, so I don't get a whole lot of rust or anything, and a lot of stuff here is, you know, it's pretty solidly engaged with a regular 6-point flat drive. So I'd probably be happy to have the surface drive as well, especially if I'm taking apart older stuff that's either rusty or chewed up, or maybe even has paint on it or whatnot. But the flat drive here works pretty well for what I do. Happy with the overall feel there. So definitely a nice addition to what I already have. And I like the fact that this goes all the way up to 22. All right, and then the last set over here, this is the 1/2-inch drive impact, but these are the shallow sockets. Part number here is RS14401MS/10. It's again a 10-piece set, but these are different socket sizes than the last 10-piece set here. So we've got a 10, 12, 13, 14, 17, 19, 21, 22, 24, and 27. So we're skipping a few in there, but these again are going to be the most commonly used sizes, at least for me. All right, so look at the difference here. This is a 17mm standard depth impact socket, and this is the Ko-ken shallow impact socket. Same size, 17. Now this does have a larger diameter, which for an impact is actually going to help because it creates more mass than if it were the same diameter. So take a look at that. Also adds, of course, some strength there. It's nice that it's a little bit thinner here in case you do need to get into a little recess or something like that, but take a look at the difference there. I mean, that's a huge difference in length. And the reason that's important is because, you know, for example, sometimes I'll use this right here. This is another 17mm 3/8 drive on my 2960 Milwaukee. This is really my tool of choice for doing brake jobs if it's powerful enough. But a lot of times this 2960 mid torque is not strong enough to break loose caliper bolts. The overall length here front to back is nice and small. Look how much bigger the 2767 is compared to the 2960. So I'll give you a measurement here in a minute. This is where the space saving is going to help us, because if I take this off and put this one on, it doesn't stick out as far. Just by doing this, I'm shaving off at least a 1/2 inch right there, and that's gonna allow me to use this tool to pull off some of those caliper bracket bolts by using these Ko-ken sockets. So I'm super excited about this. So just to give you a quick comparison, here's the 2960, and we're just over 6.5 inches. With the 2767 and the standard 1/2 inch impact socket, we're at 9.25. So let's change that one out to my new shallow Ko-ken socket here. Now, right there, that's about 8.75. That's going to make a huge difference. I mean, it's really not much deeper than the anvil. The anvil is still flush with the inside there. Be able to get on some of those caliper bracket bolts. Look at that. Still fits securely the entire head of the bolt. You still have a really good engagement on that bolt, which is exactly what we want. You know, that's a huge difference just by using this on the 2767. Now, I do know that the 2967, the newest version of this high torque Milwaukee impact, is a full inch shorter. And so that would help too, but that's $300 right now, and that's without any batteries. Of course, they've got the forged battery, and then you're gonna spend, you know, close to $500 with a forged charger and all that to get that 2967, which I probably will do eventually here, but I've already got this. This is like my extension of my right arm when working on cars, and just by using this Ko-ken shallower socket here, that's going to allow me to get this big piece of equipment and strong piece of equipment into smaller spaces, which is exactly what I need. And I'm sure that these will work great on the 2967 as well. I really like these. I'm sure I'll be using them quite a bit. Let's take a look at the overall length. Yeah, it's about 1 inch. And then this one's a Tecton here, 17, is about 1.5 inches or just shy of 1.5 inches. So a whole 1/2 inch does make a big difference there. If you couple this with the new 2967, you're already 1.5 inches shallower. And I do really like the labeling on here too. It's printed on there nice and clear, and you can see exactly what size you need there too. It's also engraved on the other side if you want to get like a pen and outline those. I know sometimes people will do that. They'll fill that in with a paint pen and wipe that, make it show up even more, but it's nice that you've got engraved on one side and then printed on the other. So definitely going to be easy to grab the right size, and really happy with the overall depth on these. I think these are really going to come in handy. Real happy with all of this stuff. enough, I just want to say thank you to Ko-ken USA for sending this stuff to me in exchange for this unboxing and review. And of course, like I mentioned, you will see a lot of these in action on some of my other videos. And that's pretty much it for this haul. I hope you guys liked the video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you don't mind. That does help me out. I'll get links to the other Ko-ken tool videos that I've done in the description for you, along with a coupon code. It's Dan the Fix It Man 10. I'll put that up here on the screen, but I'll also put that in the description for you as well. And that's going to qualify you for a 10% discount site-wide at kokenusa.com. Thanks so much for watching and good luck.